Okay, boys and girls. So it's time to be a 10x developer, and we're gonna build a thing that slows things down, right? So this is a thing that stops you from spending $10,000 a month in AWS bills, and more importantly, it stops you from DDoSing yourself. Because it's very easy for us to do that sometimes as developers. So we're gonna do it with a little bit of vibe coding. So except we actually know what we're doing, right? So the idea is we know how to program, we know how to what a rate limiter is, and we're gonna go ahead and build one because you don't always need to use this package on the internet, right? Even though ironically, I'm building a package to put on the internet so that other people don't have to build this package to put on the internet. So let's get started. So I'm starting with a comment explaining what it is that I want my function to do. This is the error that we're gonna throw. I wanna throw my own error because you should always be able to catch your error and say, if this is an instance of rate limit, handle it in a particular way. So for example, you can return a response, right, with the status 429, and this is completely normal, and this is what's gonna allow you to do all that stuff, right? So let's go ahead and get started, and we're gonna put our tests over here. I'll get rid of all of this and the NTDD, flow control, not really. We're gonna call this a rate limit, right? So right now it doesn't exist. So let's start by setting up our test. This is where our tests are. And as you can see, I'm building a bunch of flow control tools because even though I know it seems like, oh, hey dude, like why are you kind of like reinventing the wheel? Not exactly that. I like to use my own tools, and besides using my own tools, it's more of a thing of I don't like to have too many dependencies installed on my system, and the ones that I do have, I like to know that they're you know, they only do what they say that they do and nothing else, right? I have opinions. They're my opinions, and you know, I don't really care for what's out there unless I see, you know, something that's very, very good, you know, and then I'm 100% going to use that. I usually inspect my packages deeply. I go into the source code and I see, you know, what the hell is this guy doing? And if it sucks, if it's Mickey Mouse, I just don't use it. So we want to put some examples, right? So we, in order for us to get the best results from the AI, you want to give good examples, right? So today, these are there's a lot of the tooling for AI is pretty good, and it's only getting better, right? It's not going to replace developers. I doubt that, you know, this thing is going to be able to generate anything significant, right? And it's irresponsible to allow your AI to just go wild, right, without you actually verifying what it is that it's doing, right? So we want to make sure that what we build or what the AI builds actually makes sense. We want to go through every single little detail and make sure that it's correct, right? And then we kind of optimize it in the way that we like to code, right? To the efficiencies that we know, so that it's not just you know, we don't just accept what, you know, the robot oracle tells us. No. We want to vet it. It's not a human. It can't discern like we can. So that being said, let's add this to our context, right? Our test and our package. So what this thing is going to do is it's going to have it in agent mode, have it in Claude Max mode. This gives it a larger context window and more thinking time, so that what it does, it you know, it's effective at it, right? And then we're just going to kind of vet it. So what do we want to ask? Given the example that we have in our comments, help me write a. Send it. Okay, so it's gonna do its thing. It's gonna verify. It's gonna begin to write code, right? So basically, what we want to do is we're making a bouncer, right? This is, you know, you go to the API club and you have a big white dude that's just waiting at the door saying, hey, you shall not pass, right? Unless we see that this endpoint or this function is not being blasted more than it should, right? Now, the idea behind this is that it's not always an API endpoint that you want to rate limit. Sometimes it's a button on the front end, right? Which is why I'm building this. I want to make this in a way that's more, I can use this on a back end with an API, right? Or with a service, right? Or I can also use it on the front end. So we're going to let this thing just finish whatever the hell it's doing. And then we're just going to verify it. Let's see. Okay, so it's pretty much done. And let's kind of go over what it did. So it made some overloads because, which is good. That way it kind of gives you a better return type of what it is that you should expect given your configuration, right? Because we did specify on the example that, hey, when it's true, this can throw, right? And when it's false, it can return undefined, right? So it gave us the overloads that we need, and it is going to go ahead and do all the setup, right? So, okay, declaration block. So if you noticed, I do have cursor rules that are set up, right? And I have a very particular way of programming. Okay, no, it's not this one. It is in my settings right here, right? So this is how I like my coding, and I have a particular structure that I like to follow. And I have my declaration block, my validation block, my business logic, and then the commits, right? The things that actually affect state. So I have a whole article about this. Why it is that I do this. I like the concept of don't try something that might fail. So don't just, try to use this function if you're going to pass in trash, right? So that is, it's following my rules. Very good. This looks good. I have some critiques of how to improve this because I do want to set some defaults, right? So you should just be able to use this without, with some good sane defaults. And, if you need to modify them later, you can. So here's our rate limited function, and let's analyze what it's doing. Right, so we have our, let's see, it's saying, okay, very good. So, all right, so that's what this is about. That makes sense. So it's saying, hey, we're going to have an array of timestamps. And if the current date, right, if that last call is less than or equal to when it started, we're going to remove it, right? Because it's past the time window that it needs, right? It's like an array, a sliding window that it needs in order for it to know, hey, have we reached the limit, right? So then next, make sure that it's not past the calls, and if it is, we're going to create this new rate limit error, right? And throw the error if it should throw, otherwise we return undefined. We're going to push the now and return the actual function execution. Perfect. It's almost perfect, not exactly perfect. So I like to also pass the arguments that are actually before we do anything. We go ahead and accept this file, and it has come over here and it has written some tests. We're going to accept the file too, right? And we can see that the tests have passed. Before we do our modifications, which I do want us to do, I'll just comment them here, and I want to pass arguments to hook. The other thing I wanted to do here is pull out the options and set defaults, right? We're not going to do that yet. We're going to let the AI continue to do its thing. Why did it? Okay, let's let it run, inspect, and it's going to say that it should say that it succeeded. See, I think I had a bug. Perfect. Excellent, right? Now we're going to actually go back and make the changes that we wanted to do, right? So let's go ahead and, if I could type, let's get all of our defaults out, right? And then this is going to be true. On limit reached, this can be undefined. This, and then max calls is the only thing you really have to set, right? So our time limit is going to be 1 second, and we're not gonna. We are going to force the developer to tell us, hey, you want a rate limit for how much, right? So this is good. Function must be a function. What's a better description for this error? Fn must be a function. You can only rate limit functions. Okay, so now, yes, max calls must be a positive number. Window in milliseconds must be greater than 0. Okay, perfecto. And last but not least, if on limit reached and if it's not a function, it must be a function. I just don't want to I also don't love this. Max calls must be a positive number. Function must be a function. Positive number. Presenting time in milliseconds. Okay. And on limit reached must be a function. Throws equals true. Why do we do this, guys? Boolean, and it must be a Boolean. All right. So the reason why we must do this is because, yes, TypeScript is going to give us all the pretty things that we want, but a lot of people ignore TypeScript and they'll ignore, the recommendations that their IDE gives them, or they'll just have bad TypeScript configurations, or they're not even using TypeScript and they use this library or they'll use this function and they'll put in whatever garbage and then it fails in a strange way that we could have avoided by just doing a validation block, right? So now we can go ahead and start getting rid of all this stuff and all of this stuff. Same thing. And okay, so we wanted to pass the arguments to the hook. We want to know, hey, oh, not like that, right? Just like that. The arguments that you're currently trying to parse, in case you want to do something with them or you want to console log them or etc. I find it kind of annoying when I'm doing some kind of process and I can't see, hey, what item am I on when this particular thing failed, right? So I like to have something to be able to introspect into whatever it is that into the logic that I'm processing. Okay, so this looks decent. Let's go ahead and look at the tests, right? And this mock function, I have this helper that I want to use instead, right? So one, and I have a description that I usually use is the happy path. Okay, so the function that returns success and we rate limit max calls. Perfect. It should throw rate limit when the limit exceeds and throw is true. Okay, now what I want to do, yes, rate limit function 2. Okay, so yeah, this is correct. Rate limit twice, mock function, ta-da, just called it once. Perfect. Now, when throws equals false, and then the third one is undefined. Perfect. The result equals none, and I called it exactly once. Yep. And I also want to do an extra call here called when the rate limit was exceeded, and throw is true, and throw is false. Okay, I like to do this because doing it this way is fucking hideous. It's a little bit more concise. And I think we're good here. All right, perfect. And it should call limit reached, callback. When the limit is reached, boom. And then first, second, on limit reached equals 1 on the second call. Not on the second call because max 1. That is correct. And we're setting this one to be false. Deliberate separation because this is too much. And we're gonna error.max calls to be 1. Rate limit error. This was only called one time. And then where is my on limit reached calls? This is gonna be my arguments. Right, so the first one is the error. It actually, let's change this one because I want to make sure number and then string. Right, so then this also validates our typings when we do this, right? So as we saw, it's gonna scream at us if we don't put our arguments, which is good. First call, this is argument, and then the args on number 1, perfect. And I wanna make sure that this is, yes, equals 2 and B. Right, perfect. Now all our tests are passing again, and now we have introspection into our hooks. We should reset rate limit after Windows expires. Like these are a little bit smaller, so my tests run a bit faster. We'll resolve in 100 milliseconds. We can do 7. Because once you start getting all of these tests, then this thing is gonna get slow for all of these 100 millisecond tests. So we don't want to do that. So you should be able to call again, and I have a helper for this, of course. Of course. but it should be able to call again. Yes, it can. Yes, success. Should validate the input parameters. Perfect. And rate limit function. Yep. Must be a positive number, not a function. Excellent. And we're missing one. Oh. AI is going out of hand. Okay, perfect. And that's a wrap. So now I can use this rate limit on buttons. I can use this rate limit behind an API. I can do it on services that I don't want to DDoS, and so on and so forth. And I'm not limited to just an API endpoint. Now I can attach this to any function, which is why I built this in the first place. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed.